Hi everybody, G-Spots here. Today we're going to be reviewing a Grand Champ SideSwipe player named Hammertoes and a set of 3 games that he had against Deathlike Peak 87. It's a really intense set of games, so I'm excited to get into it. But before we do, I did just want to thank everyone who subbed to me, even though there was kind of a content drought here. I have been a bit nervous to make new videos, but once the SideSwipe game is released for everybody in the US, I promise I am going to be a lot more consistent in YouTube and streaming. Thank you again for your support. Let's get right into it. The first thing you'll notice is how closely people at this level are going to stay close to the ball without touching it, especially while floating in the air. This is to avoid giving a free touch to the opponent, since you could move it around them at any time. I predict that very bold players could challenge this ball in an untraditional way, possibly by taking it back to their goal to control in order to avoid an attack from their opponent. This would be very hard to do in the small map, but removing threats is one of the keys to victory. That said, patience from both players here is totally fine. We do see an incredible shot from Deathlike Peak. He had the patience when starting the aerial shot to wait for Hammer to slow down in an aerial position before shooting at top bins. Hammer had the right idea here by shadowing his opponent in the air. It's the same idea as Rocket League 3D, where you face your net and move backwards so you have more opportunities to challenge the ball towards your net, instead of facing the opponent and only having one chance to approach with momentum. I actually told this to Hammer on stream, but I fully believe that open goals are the hardest goals in Rocket League to score. Whether it's 2D or 3D, if there's an open net, there's a higher chance that pressure is going to get to me. Hammer does kind of throw the ball away to Peak when coming down. A potentially better option would have been using the flip to get down earlier, get as much boost as possible, and then wait on the ground to see if Peak challenges. Peak did force that pass by faking a challenge, which does make it harder to feel safe in that option, but it looks like Peak missed the right touch to aerial, allowing Hammer to challenge into an air dribble goal. And I am going to kind of skip ahead here because there was a free goal that, doesn't have a lot for me to commentate on. Notice Hammer's challenge when shadowing goes from defensive to offensive. I believe there can be some middle ground here where less boost can be used, but it does show how a delayed aerial touch can be susceptible to deeper aggression. At this point, you can see Hammer feeling the pressure of his own mistakes. You see him recognize when the play gets away from him, but strong mental game is where Grand Champs live. So we're going to wait and see how he improves over time, see if he's actually able to catch up. Here, Hammer is clinging to the ball in the air, delaying the final touch because he's waiting for the perfect opportunity to get the ball around Peak. He found the best angle underneath Peak, allowing Hammer to pinch the ball into the net. This game had some really great plays, but a few of the mistakes that they made were costly in their warm-up match. So let's just see how they do in the second game. We do get an incredible sequence right at the start. Hammer does a beautiful purple shot kickoff, uses the flip reset to bounce it awkwardly past Peak, off the back wall, leaving Hammer with a free clear up towards his net. Once Peak missed the angle for the touch up his wall, he really should have just stayed on his back wall instead of going back on the ground to challenge, because switching his momentum kept him a little low to the ground with not a lot of speed. Peak is showcasing the potential of SideSwipe in this segment. He gets a follow-up touch from the ceiling, where he controls, then redirects to Hammer's backboard, almost scoring a brutal goal. This level of control will be expected at the highest levels. If you want to get to this point, I really would recommend hopping in training and practice some backboard reads. Trust me, it'll be a lot easier than 3D Rocket League. Hammer is using great defense here. Peak has not been able to get great control of the ball because he's constantly trying to mind game Hammer. But Hammer isn't falling for any of it. He used the first game as a great learning opportunity, and now he just can't be stopped. Now this shot towards net was interesting because on my first review it definitely seemed like Hammer threw away the ball, but on further inspection it does appear that Hammer is testing Peak to see how on the ropes he really is. And this is a great time to mention that the game is so new that it is really hard for me to understand the intentions behind plays. I do apologize if I misrepresent any players today. Notice the mind games that Peak is playing. He tried going low with the ball on his aerial approach, but because the ball bounced back up, Hammer actually got the better touch on offense. For the low play, Peak would have to touch the ball with the nose of his car to roll the ball under Hammer. Again, this is all easier said than done in the heat of the moment, but luckily for Hammer, he was predicting an aerial play, which put him solidly with a 2-goal lead in a low-scoring game. And after this game ends, I do just want to pause and rewatch that save at 17. Hammer here has enough boost to touch the ball to save it, softly in front of net. Then Pete goes for the low shot, and Hammer uses the ceiling of his goal to get momentum, boost, flip, and effortlessly save it. Now that is SideSwipe gameplay. This game too was super clean, so much closer, and Peak had some great plays here, but fortunately for Hammer, and unfortunately for Peak, Hammer was ready. Now this does put the score at 1-1 for the set of 3. It really could be anyone's game at this point. Well, kickoff goals are not very common in SideSwipe. I think Hammer mentioned something about having an issue with his jump, so he is kind of 1 goal down by an unfortunate accident. So here, where Hammer aggresses after kickoff, it's a great move. However, he does aggress when he's on low boost as well, putting him on the back foot while Peak charges towards his net. After Peak misses, he is able to recover and save a shot towards his net, but then passes it back to Hammer. And Hammer doesn't quite have the angle, but the idea is as hard as it is satisfying, where you can get a lot of power by turning your car towards your net and begin an air dribble upside down. In this case, off by a few pixels, he finds a dead angle and Peak steals the play right underneath Hammer. But Hammer does turn it around immediately, scoring a goal on kickoff. Hammer almost caught Peak off guard with his passive offensive play, but in doing so, is finding some hard angles to score. It's honestly been a lot harder to commentate on this game because there are so many great plays and just ball control being made. It's mesmerizing to me. This game does show how familiar they are with each other after the first 2 games. They understand the mind games, the movements, and just general game sense is very strong with these two. So now we're going to get sent to the Hammertoes school of absolute mastery of SideSwipe. He held his second jump so long that Peak had no idea when he would rip the cord and score that goal. He got his flip from the inside of his net, which is incredible, and held that air dribble for a long time. Peak air rolling constantly is to his advantage. Unlike Rocket League 3D, air rolling doesn't affect any movement, neither flips nor car angle. The only thing it does affect is what side your car is facing. Because of the constant air rolling, Peak can get a flip reset from any position, since the bottom of his car will quickly touch the ball, whether facing the ball correctly or not. So I'm going to give a moment of silence just to let these players finish the game. I have to say, watching this live was a pleasure. That was insane by Peak. Getting that goal similar to game 1, where he just kind of had Hammer dangling in the air there and took advantage of that fact. Really great plays by both. Hammer did everything he could in that last situation. He almost got the ball up again in the air before the 0 seconds, but unfortunately, Peak wanted that ball down. He wanted that win. I thought this was just an incredible showcase of how tense these games really do get at the highest levels. You can see that people are still trying to learn, they're adapting as games go on, but in no time, this community is going to blow up. We're going to excel at all these aerial plays, we're going to find the most optimal defenses. Just right now, we are all figuring it out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or leave a comment about what you'd like to see in the future. I do like reviewing high-level gameplay, but honestly, I just can't wait to get my hands on the US release. Since I believe everyone will get access in the preseason, you can expect another video from my perspective within the next couple of weeks depending on the timeline of Psyonix. Once again, I'm Chispas with a soft S, like in the word soft, not like cheese. Chispas. But I hope you all take it easy.